Hi everyone. Today I want to talk about creativity as a way of living. So, what I want to address is we all here, or because we have a creative practice, or because we would like to have a creative practice, but there are lots of spaces in between that. And I want to explore that because that's a topic that really interests me, and I'm always finding and understanding and exploring my internal knowing and my knowledge in everything that correlates with creativity. So I got some notes here so that I follow the line of thought. And the first one is a question like, have you ever started making something without a plan and later it made sense? Because that's something that happens with me quite a lot. Many times I'm just like, I'm just getting started with something. And because I drop the pressure on that piece, it's like, I'll see what will happen with this one. Often, those pieces are the ones that let me open into a new path and create something new. Because I feel like when I'm going with a very specific um, outcome of finishing, like I know what I want, or if I'm creating a commission, there is no real room for exploration. And then new ideas rarely come out of this space. And whereas when I'm start something really low pressure, I have room to really explore and there is no fear like, what if I do this? What if I change completely? What if um, I make it taller, I make it wider, and just let the clay guide me? So that's something that I want to bring up because many times we have a perception that if things are not going as our initial vision, that's a problem, is something going wrong. But I want to really invite you to see if sometimes you are creating something and that something is not really going on the way that you first envisioned. Just enjoy and give it a chance instead of fighting against it. Let's just say that you are making um, a vase with the rolling pin method, and then you start making, and you had envisioned something that's like a curved shape, but it starts opening at the top, and then you start fighting against it. That often won't really get you where you want and gonna get you frustration. Not that you shouldn't be trying to get things as you want, but sometimes that's the invitation. Sometimes just really allowing for things to move in a different direction than what you first envisioned can really be positive to expand your creative endeavors, like giving it a chance. So when we come to creativity, something that is relatively new into my knowledge, but now that I have experienced it physically, it's feeling like I kind of always knew that I was just not using it. But the point is creativity and your nervous system. So, creativity isn't something you try hard at, it's something that happens when your body feels safe. And that's the interesting thing. So, nervous system is something that always interested me. As you all probably know, there's a lot of talk about your nervous system now. Before, I think we just heard that nervous system existed. Now everyone is talking about the nervous system. And I decided to go deep into the nervous system and understand it better. So, what is happening is our nervous system is an autonomic system that runs in our body. And what our nervous system is doing is keeping us safe or protecting us from any perceived threat. But the catch in that is safe for the nervous system is not necessarily what is safe. Safe is what is familiar. So if you're not used to taking risk is not familiar to you. So your nervous system gonna make or guide you towards avoiding taking risk. And that's where it comes this point on creativity and where we lock everything. So if you never really allow yourself to take small risks, that you can show your nervous system that taking risks sometimes or controlled risks can be safe and does not um, threat your safety. Like it is not that taking little risks will like create you such a situation where your life will be in risk. And it sounds a bit dramatic putting like that, but that's really how it feels. So working with our nervous system in order to develop our creative practice is key. And that's can be very simple. Most of the time is actually really simple and sounds much more overwhelming than what actually is. So the work that I've been working on, like the work that has been working for me and that I've been doing at the moment, are small practices on my daily life according to what I can fit in, but practices that lead to regulation. Because the point is, we all get dysregulated. It's part of the work of the nervous system anyway. But being in chronic dysregulation is where it's at. So the practices, just to put it simple, that I actually implemented in my day-to-day life are one that's super easy, super simple. It's called the Vu breath. It's something that you just do like, say, 3 or so breaths. And you keep going like that to the end of your the air to the end of your exhale, and then you take another breath gently and do again. That's such a simple one. Can be a or humming or internal humming with the mouth closed. What it does is it creates a vibration internally that sends messages to the terminations that live in our nervous system, and that creates a rebalance. And so other practices that are simple can be, it's all more related to the body and swaying side to side like you would do with a baby when you try to calm a baby. That's a simple practice you can do in your car or as you sit in your chair, just for a few moments. So another practice that's like bringing to your present is noticing the space around you, noticing the colors, smelling the smell, and taking the time to really land and ground. And then another practice that I've been using quite a bit, simple, easy to get into the day to day, is called EFT tapping. Not sure if you ever heard about, but put it simple. Basically, you're gonna create some acupressure movement and you're gonna activate these points. And there are many points, there are many ways that you can go with EFT. I went on the loop with it and I dialed back. Now it's just something like that. You just tap these points. And there are many points because our body is full of, like, if you see a chart of acupuncture, there are lots of points. But basically, if you just even tap them like that, preferably in presence and really feeling how it feels, there are these collarbone points, that really grounds your system. Because the thing with the nervous system that I've learned that's really interesting is thinking and talking mentally things like, I feel safe to create. I'm here now and I'm going to create something amazing. I'm going to take a risk and I'll feel safe taking a risk. That's not really how the nervous system really understands. The nervous system doesn't really get our verbal language. It just gets our language by feeling. So by doing these little practices, a breath work, a tapping, a moment of presence, it sends a message to your nervous system that you are safe now. And by creating little messages throughout the day that you are safe now, you just keep showing your nervous system that's okay, that there is nothing to be overreactive about. And day by day, gradually, that really creates a huge change. Because the thing with these practices is, if you are constantly doing like little practices of regulation, your nervous system understands that you are in a safe space. And other practices that are easy and enjoyable, going out for a walk, putting your feet on the grass, on the sand, spending time in nature, just contemplating a sunset, a sunrise, a moonrise, whatever that might be. And then other practices that might take a bit more time and can work in other layers and deeper layers of your nervous system would be breath works or yoga nidra or like sauna and physical exercises. And another one that's super simple, easy to fit in as well, would be dancing and shaking, moving, like anything that brings you, basically takes you out of your mind and brings you closer to your body and to how you feel. So since I started adding these practices into my life constantly, like 2 minutes here, 5 minutes there, 30 minutes here, 1 hour there, I noticed a really big shift because I didn't know that. And I studied that and then I explored that and I experienced that. What happens is our nervous system is kind of like, imagine like water balloon, right? That you can shape in whichever way. So our nervous system runs throughout our whole body and it has a tonus, a shape. So once you relax, it kind of relaxes as well. And once you tense, it gets tense as well. And this shape is what kind of guides our feelings and thoughts. So if you bring practices that create a feel in your body and changes your thought pattern, that's how you regulate your nervous system to a level that will allow you to feel more comfortable exploring new creative ventures. And that's really interesting because when we think about creativity and when we go back in time, and if we look for a child that it's a free kid, that doesn't have much conditioning or all of that. If a child sits in front of a table and let's say there's some clay there are some tools, water, everything that you need to create something, the child won't even be asking, what can I do? Probably just gonna get started and do it. If needs something, might ask, oh, how can I do that? If the child has an idea and want to put it together and doesn't have the knowledge. And what I want to bring to us is we're now in a time and space where we're looking for a lot of knowledge, but not trusting our internal knowledge, the collective knowledge that exists. And that's the point with being feeling safe and having your regulation as an ongoing practice. And if something you could just try as well, bringing some of these practices to your creative practice if you don't like feel like you can fit in your day, and you can just start with something like as soon as you get into your creative space, because you can be really excited or you can be quite paralyzed when you get to make something or even before. Try to take a few breaths, like the Wu breath is great, or any breath that will help you to get to your body a bit more. And that said, I want to bring in that we often have kind of like there are a few states that your nervous system can be on, but there are two basics. Or you feel more like lethargic, paralyzed, and then you would like to bring a bit more movement. Or if you feel more on the anxious side, overthinking, rushing, and moving too fast, then you'd like to bring a down regulating breath before your practice. And doing that will allow you to get to that moment in a different stage. But the key thing is doing this practice day to day changes a lot how you feel, how you think, how you move through life. And I think that's one big missing part because life has changed so much over the last years, decades, and the online space is coming really strong and it's a beautiful place to connect. But if you don't use it wisely, it can take you out of yourself and your self-inquiries and your creativity. But at the same time, this connection that we have online is extremely powerful because what happens is when we connect to other people, let's say inside of the community, right? Someone is showing what they are doing. Like, hey, I just made these rolling pin vases. Look how they look. I had these challenges and I'm happy with these. I'm not. So, what happens when we are in a group, which is how we used to create, first of all, in tribes, in groups, connected. When we are in a group, we co regulate. And that's the magic of, like, if I put in a way, have you ever noticed two separate examples? You get to a room and then you feel like everyone is calm and everyone is grounded, and you kind of like get to that same level. And then the opposite, if you get into a room where people are agitated, something tense is happening, maybe not related to you at all, but there is just this energy. You're likely to absorb a bit of that energy as well. And that's the thing with the nervous system. We always regulating and co-regulating. And the magic with this creative space is when we say jump on the community, see someone talking, explore and talk about our experience, there's something really powerful that happens as well, because most of us will have wounds and traumas about expressing ourselves, about being our authentic selves. Let's say, for me, for instance, at school, I do have an experience that's pretty clear in my mind of me putting out a work that I've done and not being received well. So, what the other thing that happens that's really powerful, that happens in community, that happens when we share and we connect is we show our nervous system that being seen is also safe. Because when you are expressing yourself and being seen inside of a safe space, a safe container, which is the community for us in a creative practice, you gradually showing your nervous system that's like, hey, I showed my work, I showed what worked and even what didn't work inside of this space. And it felt good. It felt good to share. It felt good to be vulnerable. It felt good to be seen, because it's a big part of integrating emotions and connecting with our creativity, being seen. So when we have these spaces where we can be seen and we can express and we even feel like sharing, it really shifts something really big inside of us. And that's something that we have been losing, which are these connections, because nowadays, more and more with the online ways of communicating, it's often you just put something out there and you wait to see what you're going to get back. But it's not necessarily on a group of people that you feel safe, because we're publishing to everyone. So it's different. Like if I put in a practical example, let's say that we are in a creative group, we work together. And I'll come to someone and say, hey, I had an issue with my cup. I made the cup and didn't work. I'm quite frustrated about it and I don't know what to do. Or even I know what is the problem, but I'm to someone in your group that's safe, you're very likely to get something like, hey, these things happen, you know, just do another one. I'm sure you can even do better. You can work, you learned with that. Like there is this feedback of like, hey, that's okay. That happens. Whereas if we put something online, let's say you post that in your social media, whatever platform you're on, you can get a mixed feedback. It's like, oh, you're terrible at that. How did you get that wrong? Any 5-year-old can get that, and that can come to you in a very in the wrong angle and really prime then your nervous system to never share again. And can be that you had experiences like that before where sharing you got a negative feedback. And that's the thing of repriming your nervous system for this work. Because if you have a block on how you share your work, what are the chances of you putting yourself out there in places that you deserve for your work to be seen, for your work to be noticed and to be experienced? So that whole thing, it's so subjective yet so practical and objective that the lines get a bit blurry and intertwined. So what I notice for me is like At times, doing the nervous system work is really the base level, and at other times, just doing the physical work and creating something new also sends the message to my nervous system. So it's not just a one-way street. Everything is happening from all angles. And some days, doing the physical work is what going to rebalance me and get me grounded. And other days, doing the work before doing the physical work is what going to ground me. And understanding and getting this self-knowledge to know what is the work that I need to do today for myself. That's where it's at. And that's where creativity becomes this powerful healing tool that we have, that is not necessarily that you think like, oh, I'm doing art therapy. We all are healing at every day and creating little traumas every day. That's a day-to-day thing. So the constant work is keep regulating. And that's where the magic really happens. Because once you are in this state of like, I'm safe. I'm safe to create. I'm safe to make mistakes. I'm safe to be who I am. You give yourself a way bigger chance of really expressing, creating what you want, not what other people would like. And then you get into your authentic expression and you understand that your limitations are actually a gift. They are not a problem. And you work with them instead of working against them. And you allow yourself to try new things. You allow yourself to explore a new shape, a new body of work, a new collection. You allow yourself to be free and to enjoy this creative practice. And with that, you prime your nervous system on this ongoing showing that's possible, showing that feels good, showing that's okay, and it goes and it spreads, and it this whole experience just get into other areas of your life. And I think that's the magic that happens with creating physically that often doesn't get talked about enough. And it's really changes everything. And to me, I think this whole practice is getting even more powerful and more strong because about probably about 6 months ago, and for a minimum of 3 months, I was in the most dysregulated state of my life. I can justify that for myself with many external situations that had been happening that felt out of my control and put a lot of pressure, and all of that was really changing my whole experience. So just to put in and open up a few things that happened with me on this last while. So I had a miscarriage, which was very, how can I put that, unexpected, since I had two babies before and I was never expecting that that would happen. I didn't know that was such a common experience altogether. And we were also building a new house, so financially there was a lot of pressure. My husband was working on it full time, and I was working on my business full time, and we have kids, so that in itself was a lot. And there was this financial pressure with the build itself and other areas, and all of that just got me to a state of dysregulation that I haven't experienced before, because probably having kids and have these other pressures really can shake everything. And then what happens on top of that is the kids always regulate on my and his nervous system. So because we were both dysregulated constantly, the kids also got dysregulated and got extra hard because they are bouncing and reflecting this energy that I had on. So all areas of my life never been so hard. And now I can see with clarity that was a great experience to have. I needed, and it was good to go to this extreme. So now I'm here now. All of that has been integrated, most of it, and I'm working on all these things in my journey and looking at everything now from a bird's eye view, where I have freedom to create. I have my new art studio, which is something that I so looked forward to. In case you didn't know, my previous studio, because we were in a temporary, terrible house, in order to build this new house was just half of the garage. It looked terrible, it felt terrible, yet I made it work. And it was actually the space where I create some of my most beautiful work to date. But was I couldn't get to that studio anymore. Was so yeah, it was just so much back then as well. And the thing with regulating now and understanding is this regulation will always come back to me and it will come to everyone's life. But when you have this base primed and you know the tools, so you can really feel like, okay, I'm getting a bit dysregulated here. What can I do? That's where the magic really happens. And that's where the new work comes. And that's where also the community comes as a space for us to express all of that and move through this discomfort. Because as you do that more often, you get more comfortable with doing, and this whole experience shifts. And creating new work and exploring your creativity just gets in a whole new experience where sometimes you know what you want to create and you make sense of that in your mind, and other times you start creating and then you make sense of that later. And I'm going to bring in my most recent experience. So at the moment, I've been creating pieces for my new house because I so wanted to make that. So I've been making like dining sets, and I've been making other pieces, small things. I do want to still make bigger things as well, like coffee tables and tiles to create furniture and all of that, but I didn't come about to do all of that yet. But I decided to make this jar for water. I was like, I'm gonna create a water jug. Really want to have that for my table set. And then I absolutely got obsessed, as you might can see, about the water jug. And I'm like, that's so funny, like never came to me. And I personally do not enjoy touching handles. So I'm working through that at the moment, just trying all the different ways and styles. So then, I can explore and go through this lack of preference with touching handles. Uh, and I didn't think about it till the other day that I'm reflecting. I'm like, oh, wow, I'm really into the jug thing. And I'm like, wow. And I started reflecting about it. And the whole, so jars and jugs were one of the first shapes that were created with clay in order to carry water. And when you have a jug that's full, and you're pouring, you really have that feeling of abundance, of that feeling of overflow. And I feel like that's what has been for me this connection with the community, where I can feel this energy of abundant creativity coming in and pouring out. And it's really interesting to reflect how sometimes our physical experiences can really relate to what we're creating and how everything gets interconnected. And I'll put another experience that I had before with creating pieces because it just felt like it and it all making sense later. So, a couple of years ago or even more, I decided to make a moon vase and for a new collection. And then I was like, I just want to make moon vases. And I kept making them different clays, different shapes, different carvings, and all of that. And then after making this, I noticed that I actually made 10 moon vases and just came to find out after this process that I was pregnant. And that's for me really interesting because, in case you don't know, we actually go through 10 moon cycles during our pregnancy. And I was like, oh, wow. Like this just came to me later on, but this correlation of what we're living and how it gets expressed into what we create, and how sometimes we think about it, and how sometimes we feel and we just understand it after. So I find it's really powerful, the self-inquiry and self-knowledge when you are creating and when your nervous system is with you, not against you. So what I want to really from this live call is that you all um, do this self-inquiry. If that's a journaling for you, that's a great practice. If that's walking and thinking or writing or doing this practice for yourself and noticing how you feel. I personally noticed that after 1 week of doing these regular practices, my life experience changed. Even moments where I would be primed to dysregulate, let's say, kids are giving me a hard time about something, I now am able to really get into them without losing my temper and just really move through it. Whereas before, on that dysregulated part of my life wasn't really happening. And I'm able as well to look at experiences like I'm scared that I had with different eyes and really transforming that experience in a different way and understanding what that baby really came here to bring me. And to me, it got clear that the baby that I had, that I didn't have in a way, it really came to me to allow me to express my truth. And that was the message that was really clear to me even before I found out that I was having a miscarriage. I actually had this clear conversation with my husband. I said, I know that this baby is coming to my life to really teach me how to speak my truth fully without putting any fluff and just really saying what I feel and what I think. And it's really interesting because I really noticed that transformation and became two ways as well. I notice it happening and I know that I'm honoring the life of this baby that came here to teach me every time that I'm speaking my truth. And that's very liberating. And I think that also imprints into what I'm creating on my studio. And I think the major thing is each of us has a different experience in life. We are living different moments in our lives, but we all share feelings, emotions. We all have the same capacity to all emotions. And the creative practice is really a way of making sense of life and to find joy into that process. So, my whole invitation for you all is welcome any of these practices to your life if you want. I can develop and explore specifically on them in another call or in another course inside of the community. But notice a little bit more of your practice and maybe look back because sometimes it can be a bit tricky to get clarity on what we're doing right now. But look at things that you created before and see how it correlated with your life and what you were living. And then you can see how powerful this creative practice is. And if you are in a moment where you are creatively blocked and things are not flowing, that's okay. It happens with all of us, and there is nothing wrong. And that might be a bigger invitation for you to start one of those practices and notice if there is a shift in the way that you feel and the way that you create. And I'll just see if I got any other um, important things to put in. So there's this child state that I penciled in, but it's that state of curiosity, that state of what if. And what I want to bring in with that is many times because we're creating for a practice that is our business as well. There is less space to try what if. What would happen if I do this? What would happen if I try that? So just welcome a bit more of that in case you are not welcoming it at the moment. And allow maybe on the day one piece that will be a full what if that doesn't need to be a final piece. And see how it can really change your practice. And then um, I went on the piece of clarity. Sometimes the clarity gonna come in during the process and sometimes later on. And that's okay, it's part of the process. And then the other thing that I want to bring is when we're creating something new or getting out of our comfort zone, and that might be already pretty clear to you if you've been creating with the rolling pin method. There is that moment of manifesting, of creating your work, of bringing it to life, which is hard to trust that's gonna get somewhere. So often when you're creating a piece, at least with my techniques, you see that's like, gosh, doesn't really look great. Would it get anywhere? It's that even like gonna look good at all? But you trust, you keep moving, and eventually the piece really comes to life. So that's something that I want to invite you to trust in that in between process a bit more. And if in case you really is clear that you lost that piece, there's no way. Just enjoy to try something new that you wouldn't even try. A new carving pattern, a new glaze combination, a new color. I've really been keeping all the pieces that I tried something that I feel like, okay, you just didn't work. It's clear. As my trial pieces for other ideas and things. So that's just an idea. Like just every time that something didn't work as you wanted, or you can see that's not you're not liking it. You didn't like the angle, you didn't like the shape, you didn't like something about it. Keep that piece for an exploration piece in other aspects, because one aspect is the shape, one aspect is the texture, the other aspect is how you're going to finish it. So you can really enjoy those pieces to try different things and random things and just see what's going to come out of it. Maybe a new idea can be born out of that first mistake. And that's often how it goes. And then, so I have something here that is to close, which is creativity isn't a talent, is a nervous system practice where we have safety, we have curiosity, we have permission to not know yet. And it's always better when it's held in company than alone. Even though it's an alone practice, and I personally really love my alone moments, when we are together or when we have this space to share, it really gets to a next level. And for many people that are sharing studios as well, so many times we are in a shared space, but we have a connection with someone, but you don't have that depth. So when we are creating inside of this creative secrets space, we can really share and we can really connect and we can really inspire others. And there is this really powerful thing that when we inspire others, we trust in ourselves even more. And that's the piece that I would like to leave you all with. See what is the inspiration that you're getting from others and see how you can also offer inspiration. And inspiration, we inspire others by being who we are and doing what we do well naturally. And that sharing process is something that comes with practice. So, my full invitation is let's really think about something that you enjoyed making, something that you are trying, and something that didn't work recently. And let's share that and let's explore that and let's see where will take us as we get into that and how that will help our nervous system as well to be okay with these three states: something that we enjoy, something that we try, and something that did not work at all. And yeah, I hope that makes sense. I hope that pushed or pulled a thread in your mind to go through it. And let me know what you think. Let me know where you at. What is the experience that you've been through or the experiences that intertwine with what I just said? And we'll develop this in the chat. Thank you very much, and we talk soon.